Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name is Lorne Risley, host of the show and host of the channel. How are you doing? I want to do two things before we start today. Because I keep forgetting to do one, and one has sort of been on my mind over the last week or so, and there's been stuff going on that sort of helped permeate and I don't know, cement the thought in my mind that I want to talk about it. And I want to just get it out of the way now, because I might talk about it on another stream, but it's just since I've got you, and since it's on my mind, I just want to talk about it. So the first thing is, one of the most familiar names that you'll see in the chat of this channel is Hadashrooms, and he has streams that he does where he exhibits his musical prowess, i.e. his ability to be able to use I believe a DJ deck in order to put together sumptuous sounds for your ears. I keep meaning to give him a shout out and to say, if you're at all interested in trying to, as I try to, be cognizant and aware of talent outside of what is already established in the mainstream, trying to find cool people that do cool shit, then I would heartily recommend that you go and just give him a try. Just go and have a look and see what he's up to and see what he's doing, because I think he'd appreciate it. The second thing, without directly referencing do you know what? Again, this is kind of part of it. And this is why I'm getting it out of the way, because I just want to say what I want to say and then move on. I don't really want to spend an hour and a half on it. The notion of censorship, self-censorship, all the rest of this sort of stuff that's being, there was a reference to it. Kupar has kind of championed the fact that this could have impact and ramifications on things outside of what the actual act entails. I think what frustrates me and infuriates me is not necessarily the point Kupar is making. You can debate it, you can argue it, you can say he's right, he's wrong, and everything in between. What I really get pissed off about is the dunking and the sort of notion that if enough people get behind saying to someone they're dumb or that their point of view is stupid, that automatically invalidates it. And I've been on the end of dog piles like that, and the funny thing about those is, at the end of it, I never ever really feel like anyone ever attempted to try and see my point of view. People like to infer meaning, and that's it. And then they jump on it, and then suddenly it's a meme. Do you know what I mean? It pisses me off. And it got me thinking about it the other day, because I did it. I trying to give myself the impression of, oh, if I do this, then it keeps everyone sweet. And the more I thought about it, the more it bothered me that I did it, because it was me effectively saying that I don't believe in what I was saying, when I do. I believe everything I said was perfectly vindicated, perfectly reasonable. And I think the other thing as well is, okay, Pagan. By the way, hi, Pagan. Pagan makes the point that not necessarily everyone... No, but that's not how it feels. That's not how it feels. And especially on Twitter, intelligent discourse isn't really possible anymore, and yet that's where a lot of it is conducted. And I guess what I'm saying is, I'd really hope that what we're about to talk about, particularly in the battle rap community, in the scene of battle rap, ushers in an era where this kind of shit stops. Because I can't tell you, as much as you might disagree with Kupar, as much as you might agree with Kupar, you might see the nuances of argument, try and extend it to a ridiculous rate just to say he's whatever. That's fine. It's not really the point I'm making, though. The point I'm making is that battle rap has a real fucking problem with divergence of opinion. And it has a real problem with not wanting to understand the other point of view. And it fucking annoys me, as someone that really gets irritated and agitated when people don't listen to what the fuck I'm saying. Specifically because I'm quite a thoughtful person. And when people don't credit me with that, but they want to label it against me, like, oh, you think too much. Right. Why aren't you listening to me when I make a fucking point then? It annoys me. And so, battle rap at the moment, I think one of its big issues is that it's going to have that issue with fans that come into it if Prem's plans go to... They go. I.e., new fans that come in with opinions that grate against common consensus within the current iteration of battle rap. And I really hope Prem can go some way to mitigating that, or at least curtailing that through encouragement of discourse, rather than what I can sometimes see happen, which is that dogpiling, and that pisses me off. So I wanted to mention that, because the other thing I was going to say was my stream the other day that I quote self-censored. I'm going to be not uploading it because I never deleted it. I'm just going to set it from private to thing. And to be honest, man, again, I'm not worried about what I said, because I know I said everything that was fine. And if anyone takes an issue with it, fuck them. You know what I mean? It doesn't... Because this is my opinion on it, and this is how I'll end this section, and we move into the thing you're actually here for when you watch this. If you're not willing to hear my point of view, fuck you. I'm not... Again, why am I extending you any kind of courtesy? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the fucking point? It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? If you're set in your ways and set in your opinion, frankly, I feel sorry for you, because that means that chances are that's a reactionary opinion. It's not based on anything logical. And it means that you do that with everything, which means that when you all start heading to the cliff, you know what I mean? Anyways. Hylas. What am I playing at? I have other things that I got done early today, and I had some time on my hands. I was bored. And I thought, to be honest, this episode... I'm ranting at the beginning of the episode just because something was on my mind, and the Coupar thing kind of elicited the response, which is, as I was saying, by the way, I'm going to be unprivating that after this stream, because fuck it. Who cares, man? It's just my opinion. If you don't like it, fucking move on. Same with Coupar, by the way. And it's the same with anybody that expresses any opinion on UK Battle Rap going forward. Again, if we can just make this the norm going forward, if someone tweets something that you think is objectionable, short of anything that's really reprehensible, like we should all murder someone, in which case inciting violence is slightly different. But if it's just, I didn't think this particular battler was very good, move on from it. Why does it have to be a thing that everyone come quick, someone has opinions that don't match ours, dogpile him? Because then you'll end up with the same problem as you do right now with the fandom, which is that no one feels like they can express a tangible opinion unless they run it up the flagpole first, get verification, and run it back down. It's infuriating. Anyways. I just wanted to get that off my chest at the beginning. It was annoying me. And things that annoy me are better off said than not, because otherwise they eat at me. Anyways, and to answer your question, Hylas. Well... As I was saying, actually, Hylas, off before you joined, I'm going to talk about this in more detail on a separate stream. I just wanted to get this off my chest now because I wanted to parlay it into Battle Rap, because I think Battle Rap has this problem where people just kind of... They decide an opinion's wrong without really understanding it. You know what I mean? I think, and the really annoying thing about it is that everyone's gone through it. Every single person in the UK Battle Rap has at one point or another said something that everyone's gone, wait, what? And everyone piles on it, and everyone feels like shit. No one feels validated by it. It's lockstep or else, and I hate that. I hope that this tournament and the success it brings can usher in a new disposition when it comes to people going forward. That's all I'm saying. As far as the protest, I haven't heard about that. I saw he tweeted that he'd taken something down, but that's... Look... I'm not here to judge what someone wants to do as a result of the reaction that they get for expressing an opinion. So, Coupar can do whatever the fuck he wants. I don't mind. As far as I'm concerned, he's still in the tournament as far as the material is concerned, so I'm going to treat it like he still is. So, as of right now, that's that segment done. I'm sorry for ranting at you for 10 minutes. I just really wanted to get it off my chest. So, without further ado... Settle yourself in, because as I warned you on the stream yesterday, there's nothing I can actually... There's no video to show you. There's no music to give you. There's no other insights. I only have a bunch of slides and some information to comb through, because I thought, now that we effectively know the path forward, at least on a preliminary basis, I thought it'd be fun to comb through it and go like, right, let's actually examine what we think is going to happen. What are the ramifications of what we think will happen? And how do we feel about it? Do we think it's good, bad? Are we happy about it, not happy about it? All that good jazz. So, again, I apologize in advance, because this might be the driest fucking show I've ever done. Let's move on to the main screen. That's interesting. Why is my window capture not showing? For fuck's sake. Hang on. There you go. All right. Sorry about that. It must be because I shut down my PC. Anyways. Here is the Prem plan. It is a group format tournament. And it, by the looks of things, it's... Because that's a weird thing. If we have a draw, the winner of their respective battle advances. Interesting. Anyways, you've got all the rules. You've got all the points. You've got the brackets. I am going to have to withdraw these because, unfortunately, the quality of the image that I've taken is dog shit. Look at that. That is not very good. The other reason, by the way, that this is on an image showcaser is so I can do that, by the way. It's so that if we need to scome in, so I can make sure it's nice and clean for you as you see this, because I would like there to be some participation. There are 4 of you watching. I don't want to see you idly sat there. I would like to see your participation. I would like to hear what you have to say. This is just my opinion. It's going to be a boring ass show if it is just my opinion. I want to hear from you guys about, I mean, number one, how do we feel about the format? I think that some of this has been changed. All group, the one that catches my eye immediately, all group rounds 3 times 90 seconds. And they're bringing back the red lighting for overtime. I know they've amended that since to 60 seconds, and I know that's almost unanimously been accepted and praised because it means that the battles are going to be quicker, sharper. The writing's going to be a lot leaner, but a lot more pertinent and potent, hopefully. It means that the turnaround can be a lot higher. It just seems like a win-win-win-win-win. And they can save the longer rounds for the extended parts of the tournament when you've got a higher quality caliber of opponents going into matches. Or if they just want to up the stakes, you know, if they want to make it like snooker where they effectively double and triple it as they go along in the tournament. I'm absolutely fine about that. The fact that there's going to be group tables as well, presumably they'll be hosted somewhere. I would think that there's going to be... Aaron Jacobs says, I'm listening to you talk while gaming. I can't imagine how distracting it must be listening to me talk while you game. I watch stuff when I game that I've seen 1,000 times, so it's really just serving as background noise. But Aaron, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. So anyways, as far as the group format, you're going to need to... The thing with that is going to be interesting because, of course, it's going... you know, their release schedule is going to factor into how you see it. So where are the group tables going to be hosted? How often are the social media... you know, the social media channel is going to be permeating it and, you know, showcasing it, because it's all well and good, you know, trying to make it a legitimate tournament in the sense of trying to build hype and try and get people on board. I think, though, it's like football. You're going to need to make sure that there's weekly discourse in between releases. Otherwise, I think people will forget. I think Hylas and Hadastreams are 2 people that have referenced this where, you know, if there's a drought, even if it's one where you go like, fair play. Hey, again, I'm probably undiagnosed. I don't know, but all I know is I can seldom sit and do one thing anymore. It's why I talk and do this, because technically I'm interacting with this while I'm talking, so it counts as 2 things. Whereas if I was just reading off a screen, hard for me to do. Anyways, we're not here to talk about my my mental acuities. So yeah, my point being is that football endures the way it does is because week to week there's shit to talk about. There's stuff that they focus on. There's behind-the-scenes stuff. There's a lot of discourse that allows the focus to be put back on the game week to week to settle the discourse, in effect, and then set the next week's discourse. It won't serve Prem well unless they capitalize on that. And part of that is making sure that the tables are clear and available for everyone to see, at least I think. So I'd be curious to hear how people would want to see that. So, I mean, that's something we probably haven't touched on, is how much... And how do you want to be engaged by Prem? You know, it's not enough just to release the battles and then occasionally look through the comment section or follow the Twitter responses. Ideally, what you want is you want a community hosted somewhere. Maybe that's via the Patreon. At the moment, the Patreon is limited by just the fact that they post things and they've got chat sections in the videos. I would want to see something, because again, I'm thinking outside the box here a little bit. They keep referencing using social media platforms, you know, content creators. I would hope that, again, someone like a Koj, for instance, that they're going to tap on the shoulder and say, listen, we would love for you to go live once or twice a week to fixate and focus on things. We'd like you to kind of, you know, talk. Just kind of keep the conversation going or inject something into the conversation. Highlight the groups. Talk about things that have kind of come out of left field. Because, again, what you've got here... You've got the group formats, and then you've got, you've got so many different, that's a long time. Again, that's 6 months worth of content in effect. you got the group formats, which is, by the way, where I'm going to be fixating on for this because they're what we know for sure. And I've got the brackets, and I've also got when they're going down and who's battling who and when. So I thought it might be fun to just kind of, again, make our predictions as we go. But if you look at that, that means that over a period of time, this area here is where we have to be fixated on. I'll scroll out a little bit because you can't really see it. Once we get to here, I mean, we're back into what is effectively the tried and trusted Premier Battles and indeed Battle Rap, format, which is it's one match, it goes to the next, one match, it goes to the next. Whereas the tournament, like, this is that time for them to really capitalize on what they were talking about. Building narratives, trying to ingratiate people with battlers that are on the come up or maybe struggling or whatever the case may be, right? So this is critical. Like, this being there is a useful tool in utilizing your audience base, but it'd be interesting to see how they utilize that beyond just having the table displayed somewhere. Like I say, I would, if I was running the channel, I'd want people on hand to say, right, this week, here's the table. We'd really love you to discuss this. We'd really love you to highlight this, or we need you to look into what the fans are talking about. Highlight that. Really get into the weeds about what the fans are really talking about when it comes to a particular performance. Because the other thing I would love to see them steer away from is just having, quote, top tiers opining about what they're seeing and kind of, that sort of almost trying to tell their audience what they're seeing and what they think they should and shouldn't be doing. I understand that, in punditry, that's kind of a large part of it. But the other thing about punditry is they feed off what their audience is talking about as well, and they use it for kindling for the conversation. So I hope there's more of a symbiosis between the audience and the battlers and indeed the guys in question. So we enforce the where winning matters statement, which I understand the whole premise of the tournament is the winner stuff. Okay. I mean, the thing that would be interesting to me is, the other thing I have to ask people in the audience is, knowing who is in the tournament now, what storylines do you want to see occur? I mean, are there any battlers who you hope cross paths that aren't in the same groups that you hope come face to face as a result of the tournament for X reason? Are there any rivalries you want to see build? Are there any particular batters that you hope do well for whatever reason? Again, if Prem are clever, they'll capitalize on that. Even if the battler doesn't ultimately win the tournament, fan support and endearment to an audience is important, especially considering that, again, winning a battle doesn't necessarily mean that the audience likes you. It just means you won a battle in the eyes of the judges, and that's a critical element here. This isn't going to be there's no audience participation in this. It's going to be judged. So there's still room for error, if I can put it as nicely as that. They're still going to be judged by people that ultimately have their own subjective opinions. I would have loved to have seen Prem maybe inject an element of audience participation into the ruling on this. Even if it was just the audience gets a vote. Like if you call a judging panel, right, there's 5 judges or 5 votes per battle, one of the votes is the audience. And ideally, what you'd like is the audience to be the tiebreaker vote, because that's kind of the vote that means the most in the grand scheme of things as far as what this tournament is geared up to do, which is to ingratiate itself to a new audience base. And the easiest way to do that is by giving them a say, giving them input and saying, what do you think? You know what I mean? So hopefully, judging done post-battle with external judges reviewing the battles, announced on a live stream who won. So, yeah, that's pretty traditional, and I understand the reasoning for it. It's because they probably have people in mind that they can count on to judge the battles. I'm just saying, though, that I don't want the audience to control the outcome. I do want the audience to have feedback on the outcome, because ideally, again, you want to build that connection with the audience. At the moment, half of the reason why an audience isn't there to be had at a live event is because Premier Battles don't flop, no loose chat, and everyone besides just haven't been able to make that connection with a current fan base. And I think, again, in my experience at least, that's because they're quite happy for you to turn up to an event. They're quite happy for you to cheer when they tell you to cheer and shut the fuck up when they need you to shut the fuck up. But as far as actually hearing what a widespread audience would think, I don't know how welcome that is. So I'd like to see a break in that trend if at all possible. That's just me. As far as obviously the brackets, once the tournament goes through is standard, it just whittles down. That's fair enough. And the reason why we won't go into it in too much detail today is because, of course, they do reference who battles who. I like how it is effectively a football tournament format in the sense of you've got every incentive to win your group because, in theory at least, if you win your group, you get an easier matchup on the back end. It therefore promotes the better battlers performing to their better standards in order to get a more favourable draw in order to progress further in the tournament out of necessity, really. Random draw might have been more interesting, but at the same time, I understand, though, that this would allow us at certain points in the group stages to start making predictions about, right, it's looking like this guy's going to win this, which means this, da-da-da-da-da. It allows audiences to build up narratives in their own minds based on what they're seeing and observing. That's clever. That's good. I like that. So, but as far as the prize, this is something I'm a little bit unsure about and ambiguous about, and I know it's a little bit blurry. Apologies for that. So the £3,000 cash prize, fair enough. 2027 headline battle, co-headline battle for the runner-up, and £1,200 for the cash prize. I think that might also have changed. I think Cammy made a contribution or donation. I'm not sure, or maybe that's to do with that might have been to do with that might have been another charitable donation. I forget exactly what that was, but I know Cammy made a significant cash contribution recently, so fair play to him. The thing that interests me about these captions, though, is this right here. Now, I've watched both the streams, at least in the most of it. I didn't watch the back end of the second stream because I guess they were starting to go around in circles and they had other things on their agenda. What I'm curious about is Gemini. Because isn't that mad that Gemini might be the first person, I've said this, he might be the first person in UK Battle Rap history to win both all legitimate titles and never lose them and yet not be champion anymore. That's kind of amazing. And all in the space of about 6 months too. It just kind of blows my mind that they put such an emphasis on the quote top tier and the main event and champion status and blah blah blah, and yet it doesn't mean jack shit when they decide it. You know what I mean? It's frustrating as an audience member, and it makes you think, well, why would I get invested in a title anymore when you don't seem to be all that invested in it? So I'm curious what this means. If the headline battle is a battle against Gemini, okay, fair enough. I wonder how Gemini feels about that, if that's something that they've run by him or not. A lot of these questions, I hope at some stage or another get broached by someone at Premier Battles or, through Premier Battles or whatever, just to clarify exactly what the chain is going forward. Because again, I'd like to think that all of us got invested in Bizzo's run. And I'd like to think a lot of us were beginning to get invested in the possibility of what Gem's run would be, especially if that would culminate in a battle versus Shotty. I understand that there was some discourse about Gem not going up against Shotty straight away, and that's kind of here nor there. But ultimately, I think everyone was kind of keen on the prospect of, oh, Gemini's battling Shotty, sweet. And then the disc battles came out, and everyone was like, Gemini's battling Shotty, sweet. I don't know how likely that is, to be honest, because I know that Shotty's got his eye on retirement at this point. I know he's battling in America, and I don't know when would be the time to do the Gem Shotty battle, if not until after this tournament, in which case we're going to be waiting till 2026 and possibly sometime afterwards. So that top bracket there, that little thing, is more ambiguity than I'd like given the circumstances, but hopefully we'll get clarity in due course. So you'll have to forgive me, I haven't made these in any particular order. Oh, this is the production schedule. Okay, interesting. So they obviously touched on this in the stream, but I just thought it's kind of amazing that they've gone to this level of detail with it, because not only is it interesting to see that they've really gone to lengths to try and plan this out, it's clear that they've got a vision for things. Even, like I say, the fact that you've got all of these things to say, oh, you can't get tickets unless you're on the Patreon. Well, think about it. If I'm trying to get people to move their content habits, the first thing I do is give them an incentive to sign up to the Patreon, even on the base tier. It's clever. It's clever. It's a good idea. So the only other thing I would say is it got me. I got the Patreon again once I heard about the tournament and the fact that it's only Patreon only if you can get tickets. I'll be interested to see if I'm offered the opportunity to buy tickets. That's probably another thing altogether, but we'll see what happens. The other thing interesting as well, that you know where it's going to be. So you got the engine room in London. the HQ in Manchester. I'm not sure if that's going to be one of the so I'm assuming since Oldham is mentioned, it's not 33 Oldham Road. Chat, there's 4 of you in. I imagine one of you knows. What is Manchester HQ for Premier Battles then? Trying to think. The only one I know of is 33 Oldham. I know that they've hosted battles. They've also done it in... oh, God. They've done a couple of undisclosed events at another one. Stroh's one. I forget where that one is. But I wouldn't necessarily have thought that they would be filming in that one because the acoustics weren't the best. Yeah, I don't know. But it's interesting that they're going to share the slots between the two. So it looks like not only are they trying to incentivize people onto the Patreon so people get the Patreon, but it also looks like they're trying, if at all possible, to make sure that even if even if you normally don't get to see a Premier Battles event because you're in London or Manchester, they're trying to split the tournament between the two in order to be able to placate every fan base. That's, again, quite clever. I have to give them credit for that. And then the stream schedule, and then the live stream schedule after that. So that's cool. That's cool. I think the fact that they're staggering the content as well. I understand from some of the... I think it was either Haddershrooms or Hylas, I forget. In fact, no, it was Haddershrooms, because he was very... there was a lot of discontent around the break. I mean, again, how would you feel about the break that they're talking about right now? It was so bad that he actually said, like, you're going to be doing stuff, right? And I'm like, well... happy to do stuff, but if there's no battles, it's difficult to talk about anything because there's no battles going on. Obviously, I can react to previous battles. I can talk hyperbolically about it like we are here. But if there's no battles on, it's difficult to talk about battles. You know what I mean? The interviews are something I'll keep exploring, but again, that's hit and miss at the moment. Not my fault. I'm doing my fucking best to get people on. I can only do so much. Anyways, let's move on because. I think we'll come back to this because this is more probably around. We want to get to the predictions now. Let's go to. And the reason I did this, by the way, is I thought this was interesting. I think what people were doing here is they were looking at the groups and picking a favorite. They're like, oh, that's the best of the 3. Here's the interesting thing about that, though. Styles make battles. I'm not of the belief that there's anyone really who is above a bad battle. And I also believe that there's no one in any of these groups who's going above and beyond in a battle. So instead of just fixating on this post from Prem, I've got these from the stream because I thought, number one, it's a bit cleaner. It's a bit easier for you to see. But also, you can start to see how the battles are coming together because, like they mentioned, they're filming these in blocks, right? So it's not just as simple as... I think, can you imagine the pressure on, because every battler is going to be recording. You know what I mean? Like, you're now part of an ensemble cast and you now have to shine. It's not a part of being on a card anymore. What you do is going to have consequences for something that you're signing up for on a regular basis for 6 months. That's a lot of pressure. If I had to sign up to 6 months worth of content, I'll tell you. The difference between me saying I'm going to make 10 shows over 2 months, which probably averages out, there's 8 weeks in 2 months, but there's an extra week here and there, plus you might do a special, whatever that sort of thing is. If you just make it as and when, fine. When you sign up to do it on a schedule basis, like again I did a pre-produced half-an-hour show every week, and it had to be done every single week for about 3, 4, 5 months or whatever it was by myself. This is different. Obviously, they've got support and they've got all the rest of it. That's quite a commitment. It's a lot of pressure, and you've got to stay on it constantly. So it's not just about who you think is good right now. It's not just about who you think has put in the best performance overall out of all these participants. It's also a statement of their character as professionals, because they are going to have to maintain a level. Because think about this for a second, right? Pagan, I agree with you. And listen, hang on 1 second. Let me just make sure. Pagan, you're in this mix, young man. Pressure's on you too, my friend. And I'm expecting big things. I've seen a couple of your battles recently. In fact, if you don't have the Patreon, Young Pagan he had a battle with Lord Bentner, my lord and yours, and he was snapping, straight up snapping. Thoroughly enjoyed his performance in that battle. He is one to keep an eye on. That's for damn sure. Anyways, so Pagan, you're in the chat. I gotta know then. So how do you feel about the prospect? It's not just, oh, I have a series of battles to prepare for and I know who the opponents are. It's also, right, battle to battle, I need to make sure that my levels are consistent. Because any dip off from the previous performance might be used against me, because the judges are always cognizant of what the group is going to look like. And that's the other thing about the judging of this. It isn't just going to be about who they think won the battle. It's, right, well, who do we think is putting in the more consistent performances? Who do we think is putting in the consistently high performances? Do we compare and contrast their performances from the previous one? There's all sorts of different factors here. And so let's run through, because again, taken in isolation, I think we can make predictions, because that's fine. There's nothing wrong with making a prediction. But then let's also factor in that that's just September. Then you've got October, and then you've got November. Craziness that they've got to go back to back to back over 3 months. A battle a month, basically. So anyways, I'm going to stop waffling for a second. I've posed a lot of questions. Pagan, I've asked you a question about how you feel about it. You're welcome to put it in the chat. You're welcome to ignore it. It's entirely up to you. 5 of you in the chat and not a peep from any of you. I'm disappointed in each and every one of you. And remember, Christmas is coming. And I'll find out who you are. And I'll tell Santa you were very, very bad and didn't comment in my comment section for the almighty algorithm to pick up that I'm super popular and interesting and sexy and gorgeous. Know what you're doing and know that I see you. I can't really see you, but I see you. Anyways, September. Red Wolf versus Dub T. Torn. I like both of these young men. Red Wolf was one of my more interesting interviews because he is as adept as a musician as he is as a battler. Dub T, however, is quite determined to do well. I need to win my TFT GAM? What? What does that mean? I don't know what TFT GAM means. Remember, Aaron, I'm old. Very old. I'm drinking black coffee with no sugar in it because I can't afford any additional calories anymore. I can't even fucking... I've got ice water, and that's it. Ice water and black coffee, because I'm a fucking party animal, that's why. That's a tricky one. Minecraft is a game I've never played in all seriousness. I've got it. Littleton plays it. She likes it, and that's enough for me. Anyways, let's talk about Red Wolf Dub T. I think... that's a really tricky one to start me off with. I'm going to go with Dub T just because I think... I'm expecting big things from him. He's been banging on and on and on, rightly so, nicely so, that he wants bigger plates, bigger opportunities. He's not going to get a bigger opportunity in this to showcase your talent, so I'm going to back Dub T on this one. Although I could very easily see Red Wolf taking it because Red Wolf is very skilled and very adept. DeBurk versus Crow, I think this is pretty straightforward because I know that DeBurk has had a decent run in Prem. I think he's somewhat limited in his performing style, just because he's not a battler by trade, he's a YouTuber by trade, but he's done well. But Crow is a spectacular performer. He's really, really impressive when he really kicks into gear. So that's an easy one. I mean, gas buff Slester. I mean, Slester I think is it can be enjoyable, but it's gas buff, man. Fucking hell. Like, yeah, gas buff is a cut above the rest. For the moment, anyway, he's the one that's... I know that people are... and Pagan's made reference that Visual is the favourite because I think Visual has more credibility in the bank at the moment because he's gone up against the likes of Bobby, Quill, and he's put in fantastic performances. I saw his battle against Villain in person, and it was fantastic. It really was spectacular. I'd be curious, though, to again see over the long haul if he can maintain those kinds of standards or if they dip, because again we're talking about a very short turnaround in terms of the battles actually happening, and the battles themselves are probably going to change how the battlers approach them, because you see a battle, you see a guy snap off that you wouldn't have expected, or he does something unexpected that might make you reevaluate things. So anyways, I'll try and keep this as curt as I can. I know I'm waffling. Hadda Shrooms, you're late. Hadda Shrooms, This is how late you are. I spent the first 5 minutes ranting about other things, but the 5 minutes before that, I was promoting your Twitch stuff. So everyone, now that you're watching, and now that Hadashrooms is here, Hadashrooms streams live on Twitch. You should go and give him a watch occasionally when you're not watching me waffle about. I'll tell you what. I'll come back to this. Let me just come back to this. I think I'm expected to win by brackets, so I'm giving it 100%. Of course, none of them are easy battles, and the approach has to be different for each one, so it'll be tough. But I'm feeling confident. Probably easier for me to conduct this interview in person, Pagan, but I'm going to ask you anyway. For the battlers in the house, and for Pagan in particular, because I know he's in there, the time frames of this, how is it going to impact you? And I mean that in the sense of, right, I know you've got time between now and then, now that you know when who your opponents are and when they're going to be. Okay, that's handy to know. But obviously, you're going to be there when your opponent performs on card-to-card basis. So how much is that going to change what you write? Are you going to leave yourself time leading up to each battle to be able to amend? Or are you going to kind of bank everything up in advance and just make sure that your performing style is honed as possible? I'd love to know what the theory is on that, because again, there's a spotlight on you and you need to make sure it sticks. So anyways, Gasbuff versus Lester. I'm picking Gasbuff. Bowski versus B Ramble or Sam Essay. I don't know who won against Sam Essay and B Ramble. Can anyone tell me offhand? Because it's going to factor in again later, because the other bracket as well we don't know. Oh, you're welcome, Hadashrooms. It's always good, man. It's always good. Side note, Lester's 2-man band is awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out. In fact, can we? I tell you what. I don't know. Maybe you can send. Can you send a link? Do you have the link to his quote 2-man band in YouTube? We'll bring it up. We'll check it out now. I'm all for using this stream to highlight people as well. Why not? It's fun. Hadashrooms, you're welcome, man. It's all good. And what time do I call this? Whenever I damn well please. That's why. That's what let's go. Red Wolf is really talented, but for some reason he just never wins battles. Well, again, this is what I'm coming back to. It's not just about who we think has put in the best performance overall. It's a combination of so many different things. Because again, visual, I would argue the reason why people are holding him in good stead is not just his skill level, it's his credibility of opponents. He's one of the guys that's had a real solid push behind him in Premier Battles since he started. And obviously he's appeared on Don't Flop. And I think even No Loose Chat. So this is a guy who's tenured now. He's got a CV that you could put in front of people, even on a casual basis, and go, oh, that looks pretty good. But ultimately, that perception is founded on his opponents, and maybe not quite so much him. That's why I always look at Gasbuff and say that what holds Gasbuff back is probably the same thing that holds Red Wolf back. It's just a perception issue. It's just people going, he's nice, he's nice, but sorry, I'm getting pings and I'm pretty sure I know who it is. Yeah, I figured it was who it was. That might be interesting. We'll see how that response comes back later. And then in the comments, did B Ramble win? I still need to watch those battles. Are they on the Patreon now? In which case, I will check those out probably after we're done with this stream, because I think it'd be handy to know who won. Because this is the thing. When it comes to that prediction, Bowski versus B Ramble and Essay, I know Bowski has form. I like B Ramble. I think she's an interesting performer. I like her disposition. I like her style. I like her comedic style as well. I think she could be very promising if she then... The trouble at the moment is I think she is still in that sort of primordial phase of not being vicious enough. Again, unfortunately, battle rap is what it is in the sense of there is an element of combativeness. It's not just about saying the funniest thing or undermining your opponent the best. It's also how intimidating and how much can you impose yourself on the battle and your opponent. And at the moment, B Ramble and Sam SA actually has this issue too, because they're still relatively new. It's that lack of killer instinct. You know what I mean? Okay, interesting, Hylas. In which case, again, I'll shill for Prem some more. Well, fuck it, why not? I have the Patreon now, so I'll go and check those out later. It's where I watched the Pagan Lord Bentner battle. Obviously, by the way, Pagan, I had you winning. Congratulations. But yeah, selfishly, I want to see B Ramble win. So I'll pick B Ramble there. Assuming that she is not in... She surely must be. Oh, okay, against Hamilton. So those two are going to be difficult because I don't know who won their respective battles. Then we move on to Pagan versus Dynamic Mike. I'm not just saying this because I think he might just still be in the chat. Pagan is... his battle against Bentner was an eye-opener for me because he said some shit in there that was properly good. The one I picked probably wasn't the best one. What was it? One shot to LB, and I'll drop him. I'm Ozempic in the flesh or something like that. That was sick. That was good. That's the sugar daddy likes, Pagan. That's some clever shit. And Pagan's, again, he's got that though. That's the thing. That's where Pagan maybe doesn't have the leg up. I mean, he's got a viciousness to him. He's got a very imposing style, a confident style, relaxed but imposing. He's got that good balance, but he hasn't got the CV that a Viz has or a Gast has yet. That's why I would hope that the tournament is going to treat a lot of these guys like a blank slate. I know that we're making predictions now and the fans are going to make predictions, but I hope that is just a case where it's like, look, we are looking at these performers and that is it. That's it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, because the other thing as well, Hylas, he comments, I'm disappointed Carlton and Reverse aren't in the tourney. It's a double-edged sword, man. It's why a lot of the top tiers, quote-unquote, aren't in it. It's because it's 3 months, dude. It's a 3-month commitment, and you're effectively going to have to bet on yourself to make it. I know Reverse has other stuff going on outside of Battle Rap. Carlton probably has other stuff going on outside of Battle Rap, whereas a lot of these guys and girls, they're on the younger side. And they're hungrier, you know what I mean? They can afford to bet on themselves a little bit here. And I'm sure Prem are only too happy to try and promote that sort of entrepreneurialship, especially considering that it's hopefully a quid pro quo here. They're going to provide Prem with all the content that they could ever ask for. Prem are going to offer them a showcase that none of them could ever ask for in the current formatting of UK Battle Rap. So, but yeah, to watch stream end and win. Yeah, you just got a comment for the next hour straight. Had assumed just press the enter button every 5 seconds or something. I don't know. Feel like Sam SA is an underdog. Why do you feel that way, Hylas? What's the theory? I've seen him perform once live. I thought he was okay. The trouble with him is again, and I'm not. I feel like I'm gonna have to watch one of his battles to give him his props because I know he's a good performer. I'm just saying he hasn't really grabbed me yet. You know what I mean? He hasn't really stood out in any meaningful way. That's not to say he can't. It's just that Sam Hypes is, Sam SA. Sorry, Sam Hypes was another performer on that card that day, but he just hasn't really leapt out at me yet. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'll skip because Pagan. Yes, I think you're gonna win. Sam SA versus B Ramble, Hamill versus Kick Nelly. I would imagine Hamill won against Kick Nelly. It was just my feeling that Hamill's jovial nature and his more youthful exuberance would carry him through, but who knows. The next one is a tricky one because I am biased because I think Frost is a toolbox. I know he can have moments, but Caveman is an interesting prospect because I think Caveman is the kind of guy who Prem low-key could get behind and it make a lot of sense. He's a talented musician, nice guy. Like, there's not really anything negative I've ever come across in terms of Cave's disposition. He's a bit cheeky, he's a bit jovial, but he's a nice guy. But he's also a very, very talented battler. He's a very, very interesting battler in the sense of, I always felt that there was... The thing with Caveman was he was just missing a little bit of polish from his game. I felt like he was funny, and I felt like he could go fast and slow, he could toy with the audience, he could go in on his opponent, but there seemed to be almost a stumbly nature to his delivery. I'm thinking about his No Loose Chat performance in particular. And I just thought, he could be and it was again, I think it was Gas Buff he was battling. It was the same issue where I just thought Gas was more polished, had the better jokes overall, but you could see that there's a lot of charisma there. There's a lot of, he's very genuine as well, and that goes a long way. So that's tricky because the other thing as well, even though again, thinking like, just trying to think pragmatically here, you wonder if Frost can consistently lean in, because Frost has a character. I think that's fair to say. I think he permeates and propagates. He's like the MJF of UK battle rap in a sense. That works really, really well so long as you bring a level of performance. You can't afford to look like shit, because when you're an arrogant asshole as your character, you need to win, and you need to win well. I think, again, it's a trick to keep that going. That'll be interesting to see. If I had to pick one, though, I'm picking Caveman, because I think Caveman is just... He's a charismatic cat and an interesting performer. I mean, the saxophone thing was just cool, man. I just thought it was awesome. But I am aware that Frost is perfectly capable of coming out with a starch kind of performance. So my heart says Caveman. I'm curious to see what Frost can bring to the table with that battle. Grazza versus Kicknelly or Hamill. Again, depends. It'd be interesting to see who won that battle. I'm going to take a quick pause because we're halfway through this list and I want to make sure we catch up with some of the comments here. Let's go. Hylas. I feel like those two are in a perfect place tier-wise. Although I was thinking if there's another tournament in a year's time, I guess you would need different contenders. Well, that's an interesting question. Would they do another tournament after this? I'm not so sure they would. I'm not sure they'd want to go through the rigmarole of this again. This looked like it took a lot of organisation, and it's probably a little bit more expensive than they would like to admit, but I guess we'll have to see. I think the idea of this tournament is to set them up for the future, so I don't know if they want a hard reset every single year, unless the idea is that they're establishing people and moving them on. I don't know. And Hyla says Frost. Well, I think it's not just Frost. I think everyone benefits from the 60-second rounds. It means that they get to keep their material sharp and to the point. There's no need to go for long setups or anything like that unless, and I think Cammy made this point on a space, if what you're planning on doing is trying to be memeable and clippable on TikTok and Instagram, your bar or your scheme ideally needs to be 15 seconds or less. You need to be able to hit the high point of what you're doing, joking, saying, and get it over the line. You know what I mean? Or just study what Anderson Burris does. Look at that. Look at how he strings together the round, but cuts out all of the filler, hits the moments, adds graphics and fucking sound effects and all the rest of that sort of shit. So he can always... Because that's the clever thing about Anderson Burris. He utilizes the social media element to a degree that no one ever questions, like, yeah, but that was his side of the round. What does his opponent say? Like, that's what's amazing. Anderson Burris would have you believe, based on his social media, that he fucking bulldozes everyone, but he only ever shows you his side of the battle, and the only sides of the battle which had big reactions, and even then, did they? He's very, very cutely curated himself. And again, if I'm a battler on this tournament, and you're looking at having a production crew behind you to get your material and get all of your stuff filmed, recorded, presented, and produced, the number one thing I would be doing is being cognizant of how that's going to look on camera, so that when I get my hands on that footage, I can chop it up and do whatever I want to it to make sure that I look like a fucking $1,000,000. So again, if the guys in this tournament are smart, they'll have an eye on that. But anyways, coming back to the... I'll come back to the comments in just a second. Because I need to get through... We've got 3, and we've only halfway through 1. We've got 2 to go. So, Grazza versus Kick, Nelly, or Hamill. Assuming that Kick Nelly, whoever doesn't win goes on to that one, so it would be Hamill or Kick Nelly. I'm assuming Hamill won, so therefore it's Kick Nelly versus Grazza. I would pick Kick Nelly. I think he's very talented and very aggressive, so that carries him. I have no idea who those two are, so I cannot make an adequate prediction. I don't even know how to pronounce the second name. Beyond versus who is that? Who is that? So I hear, Hylas. Anderson versus Marlowe was excellent. So I hear. But it's a Marlowe battle. I expected nothing less. I'll have to get around to watching that at some point. But it's... I don't know. Is it available on Don't Flop's YouTube channel? I don't think it is. Otherwise, I'd have probably seen it and pegged it. I don't think I've seen it yet. Anyways, moving on, because I can't make a prediction on 2 performers I haven't seen. Dej versus DW. I'm assuming that Dej is, again, a relative newcomer, because I know DW only made his debut in UK Battle Rap very recently and did an excellent job. Well done. We'll be talking to young David on Monday. We will talk about Battle Rap, but just as a preface, we will be talking more about his advocacy for disability rights and the rights of the disadvantaged and things of that nature first. We'll obviously, we'll cut across. But yeah, I'm just going to back David here because I want to see him do well. So David is not only going to win this, but he's probably going to win the tournament and Prime Minister. So just want to let you know, yeah, David for the win. Sam Hypes versus Cooper. Now, again, I understand that as of this moment, Cooper may or may not be in the air. I'm going to treat him like he's in the tournament and that everything's moving on. I thought Sam Hypes was pretty good because I saw him battling against Dub T. He did a better job than I thought he would. Cooper, again, it depends on what Cooper wants from the tournament. I think he can be quite jovial. I think he can be quite funny. Again, maybe lacks that killer instinct and that solid flow. So I would probably predict Sam Hypes to pick up the points on this one. But again, you wonder if Cooper is really all that interested in winning the tournament or winning battles. He's more interested in using it as a promotional tool. In which case, so long as he can put together some funny shit, he's got every right to be able to win. But I'm just saying that it's a battle rap tournament. Therefore, there's also the threat element of it as well. Anyways, moving on. Quicksilver versus Bert. I'm given to understand that Bert's game has picked up significantly since I saw him perform and since his original stuff with Jeeves. I'm still going to go with Quicksilver here. I think Quicksilver can up his game a little bit more from what I've seen on Short Circuit. So I'm going to pick Quicksilver there. Rude Boy, I have never heard of, so I don't know what to say there. McCoy, I saw perform live at Undisclosed. Pretty decent. Because I know McCoy, I'm going to pick McCoy there. Jim Bob Gnarly versus Enigma. That can't be the Enigma, right? Wait. So I've seen the name. That's not the. It's not George Kelly Enigma. Don't flop Enigma, right? Is it? I feel like I'd have heard. I talked to Enigma occasionally. He hasn't mentioned being in the tournament. I mean, if he is, okay, I got something to ask him now. Interesting. However, Jim Bob. I like Jim Bob. Good performer. I know he has stumbles and he has the occasional moment, but, it is what it is. Some battles on... has some battles on Rapper's Full channel. Okay, cool. I will have to go and check him out at some point then. Because the other thing, I need to make sure that I cover everyone in the tournament before the tournament goes live. It'd be nice to have a frame of reference for absolutely everybody. There's a few in here I have no reference for, i.e. Dynamic Mike, no reference for, again, Beyond and 7WXVE, Dej, Rude Boy. These are all names I don't have any frame of reference for. Enigma the Prophet, he was Academy a few years back. He was in Penn State with Georgie Roots and Tech. Okay, cool. In which case, I'm picking Jim Bob there. That's cool. Confusing, though, by the way, having another guy called Enigma in a tournament. I'd just say that, yeah, just confusing. Viz versus Dojo. Yeah, I like Dojo a lot. I think he's a great performer. It's hard to see him winning that battle because I think Viz is just... He's going to tear into the credibility element as well. That's the other problem with battling visual is that he does have that CV behind him now. So he's technically a champion as well. So, and then we come to an interesting one. Hulk versus Kingsley. I will share with you that when I spoke to Hulk off camera, he wasn't aware necessarily he was in the tournament in the sense of, I think he knew he applied. I don't know if anyone messaged him back to say, we want you in the tournament and here's when and where. So, that's interesting to me. That's kind of funny. Anyways, that'll be an interesting one because, again, Hulk's not one for jokes per se. He's, quote, real rapper. He raps about real shit. And Kingsley is much more comedic. However, I think Kingsley is... He's in his prime, entering his prime at the moment in terms of his disposition, his caliber, his CV, his performing style, his hunger levels, all that sort of stuff. So I'd pick Kingsley there. So those are my picks for the September brackets, if you will. Let's move on to the October brackets. I'll come back to that in a second. Let's just go back through some of your comments because I know I've missed a bunch. So let me go. Where are we? Was really impressed with Sam SA when I saw him in Liverpool. Says Hyla, sound lad. Look, his breakout moment, for lack of a better phrase. No, I agree. Yeah. Again, the caveman thing, like I say, I just think he's a very dynamic and interesting guy. and so that would blend well with the social media presence. And as far as Sam Essay, I'll give another one of his battles a shot. Again, I didn't have much to work with the battle that I saw in Undisclosed in Manchester. It just, like I say, he just didn't jump out at me. Frost, Aaron says, Frost and Gast are my favourites to watch here, but anything can happen at a tournament. No, you're quite right. And again, if there are people that I want to see win, and there are people I want to see do well, there are people that I think will do well, and there are people that I think deserve to do well because of I know how much they love this and they want to do well. But like he's just said, it's a tournament, so it's not just about what happens in theory, man. It's about who at the end of it has the points to finish first and second. Because again, a bad performance, a choke, a stumble, we had this conversation on a stream yesterday. Like, how much does a stumble mean? How much does a choke mean? You know, if you go by typical battler parlance, a stumble is almost a forfeit of a round. A choke definitely is. I don't mind, you know, awarding a round in a choke situation, but I think a stumble is the subjective thing. How big was the stumble? How significant was the stumble? How much did it impact the performance and the enjoyment of the audience? These are all factors to take into consideration. If the answer's no to some of those, I don't think it should be that big of a factor. Especially considering that they're going to be editing this tournament before they release all of this stuff. So a stumble isn't as critical to the performance as it is in a live scenario where an audience's live participation is so important. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Anyways, Anderson versus Marlowe was excellent. We covered that. It's on Burris's channel. A Don't Flop event on another third-person channel. Fucking hell. There you go. Anyways, Hylas says he doesn't really think Cooper can do it on it. Well, why? What did he say? I haven't seen the posts. I know that he's... So I've messaged him to say, hey, listen, if you want to talk about it, either privately or on air, you're welcome to drop me a line. Because, again, I'd like to think I'll hear anybody out. Again, I'm not really in the mood to discount anyone's opinion at this point, unless you're just being a twat, in which case, fuck off. But if you've got a point of view, I'm willing to hear it out. And again, in Cooper, I've always found Cooper to be sound. He's a nice guy. And he loves battle rap. You'll find no one happier to be in an audience of a battle rap than Cooper. If he wasn't able to battle, he'd still be the world's biggest battle rap fan. But yeah, I don't know what he said though, so it's difficult for me to opine on that. Where are we? Where are we? God, where is it? By the way, thanks Hylas, and thank you to a few of you for giving me a bit of information as we've been going here. That's been really helpful. Remember Kingsley won his academy? Yep. And that's why I'm picking. Look, Hulk, I think, is a fantastic performer, and he could be probably more aggressive and assertive than Kingsley can. Because even when Kingsley was like, I'm gonna snap you in two. I'm coming after you. Like, even if he went, goes into that serious mode, you just know that at the end of it, and you know what else? You're a big bag of poo. Because he'd always go back into that well, I think. He's not the kind of person that would then, you know, go after fucking family members and shit like that, you know what I mean? Whereas Hulk will attack your credibility, your legitimacy, your standing in the scene, all the rest of that sort of stuff. He may dip into humor, but he'll use it to illustrate what he's talking about as opposed to using it as a crutch. Whereas I think Kingsley is the kind of guy that would dip into the seriousness well to try and reinforce the comedic element to it. So that's an interesting dichotomy of styles, but I think Kingsley would just have too much with him because he's also got great crowd work. He's very dynamic when it comes to performing in front of a crowd and keeping... He can keep the crowd on his side really easily. All right. And then Hyder says, not a fan of editing out stumbles and chokes at all. I get why they would want to do it for presentation, but it's not in the spirit of a judge rap battle. That I don't know if I agree with, if I can be brutally honest with you, Hylas. I think whatever... I haven't done this in a long time, but I studied it for a long time. I was an artist for a little bit, and one of the things in art that you get hung up on initially when you're starting off is learning how to draw the perfect line to get the correct shade, blah, 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 blah. And then they start teaching you at sixth form, A levels and sixth form and all the rest of that sort of stuff, and all the way into university. They teach you, right, that's bullshit. Half of art is experimentation. but the execution of the presentation of it, it's an audience only ever sees it once, and their first impression of an artwork is how they retain it up here. That's why it's so important that Prem, in this incarnation of itself, has to hit the ground. There's no excuses. There's no we're working out the kinks. There's no we'll get better. If you hit the ground running with production problems, battlers dropping out, chokes, sloppy presentation, erratic presentation, or a low quality presentation, that is how an audience will always remember it. Now, of course, it can change over time. It can be endeared over time. But I cannot emphasize enough to you how important it is that they nail this. So I understand what you're saying about the fact that it maybe misrepresents the battle in terms of how it went down on the day. But again, I think it's important now. In fact, let's go to... Hang on. This. So, the strategy. Full battles. So again, they're going to be dropping the full battles. So maybe a case that we're overreacting. Maybe the chokes and the stumbles are going to be left in anyway. If I was them, I'd maybe think twice. Not to necessarily change the result. Okay, I'm not saying that you should do it to push people that you like and punish people that you don't and all the rest of that sort of stuff. I'm saying, right, does this stumble just make it awkward for an audience to watch? Are we watching someone die on stage? No one as much as people might like to cringe watch stuff, we're here for a quality product, okay? You don't want to see someone shit the bed for 3 straight minutes on a regular to semi-occurring basis because it doesn't exactly speak highly of your brand. You know, again, Premier Battles this is as much an exhibition of them as it is about new talent. They can't afford to be showing battles that are subpar quality. That might involve some editing. I'm just saying, and I wouldn't blame them. Social media platforms full of extra content of this week's battlers. Again, that's what I was talking about earlier, so that's good. Highlight content. So that might answer that question, because if there's highlight content, there's every need to edit that, so that's fine. We encourage content creation with our platform, so that's good. We allow platforms such as Koj, London Gen top tier. Who's top tier? I don't know who that is. To do their own live watch-alongs on their channels, creating their own clips for social media, but maximizing our reach into new audiences with having to go to them. Without having to go to them. The community come in and have super chats highlighting in the feeds to encourage more super chats. Okay, yep, so that's the standard social media platforms. But again, the point is that they're trying to expand their social media presence, and they're also trying to expand their audience presence. Again, from a production element, it's so critical that their presentation is on point and that the battles, as much as the content itself, are on point. So chokes and stumbles, I wouldn't blame them if they want to maybe mitigate it. Of course, they can reference it. They can make sure it's highlighted, because that would come into the judging of it, and you'd want to be clear on why a battle was judged a certain way. But I don't blame them if they want to maybe, skew it up a little bit. And the fact that they've got highlights, the fact that they're going to be doing rewind clips and certain segments of the battles, so they don't have to showcase entireties of battles when they're promoting these things, that speaks to the fact that they'll be showing the full battles anyway. So maybe that's a moot point. So anyways, let's go back. We were up to... Yeah, here we are. You never know. You never know. Because I know that there's somewhat of a... So Hylas has said here, London Jen hasn't been active for ages and she works for Pen Game now, so doubt she'll be reacting. Maybe. I think, though, there's a rivalry between Prem and Pen Game to a certain degree. I'm not going to speak out of term here because it's something that I heard. It wasn't something that I saw. But there's no reason why platforms can't showcase both. You know what I mean? I don't see why they can't. As long as they're trying to be objective. If they set up like Fox News style to go, so let's talk about Pen Game and the calamity that was the Pen Game card today. God, all of it's terrible. Yeah, I can understand why they probably wouldn't be on the thing to do that, because they're opening themselves up for criticism. But if they, again, look, if Koj is the one that they ultimately pick to say, look, here's what we want you to do. Can you do it? Yes or no? And he says yes, great. If they're happy to work with other social media platforms, great too. That's why I asked who ideally they would want to reach out to. When they were doing the stream, I said, I can't remember exactly what I asked, but it was like, well, in an ideal world, who would you want to partner with from a content creation standpoint in order to showcase Prem? I think they gave examples, but that was more examples of who they'd want to collaborate with rather than who they hope picks up the Prem tournament. Who is top tier? I didn't get an answer to that. There's 6 of you watching, and you're all presumably Battle Rap fans. Who or what is top tier? I've never heard of that channel nor that platform. So, surprised they didn't mention Cammy too, by the way. I would have thought Cammy had done enough to warrant a shout out by this point. I presume as well Trubs will be doing stuff on his channel. I would have thought that, considering that he's a promoter within the tournament structure of it, because some of it's being showcased in London, or maybe he'll be content curating for the channel going forward. I don't know, but we'll see. Oh right, okay, fair enough. I haven't looked at it. I'll be honest right now, it's why I don't mind promoting other people's channels, because I'll sample it and move on. I don't really pay attention to what other people are producing if I'm producing stuff for it. I want to focus on the subject matter itself. So that's why I'm happy to talk about what Prem are doing, because they're the content creators and I'm critiquing what they're doing and saying. Other content creators, they can do what they do, dude. That's for them, and that's for you, the audience, to decide who among us deserves your attention. Yes, of course. Well, Cammy will probably go further. Cammy will probably do the predictions. He'll go he's got a sort of a channel line at the moment where he hosts battlers in a studio, and he has like these chat type podcast type conversations. Not really for me. I'll be brutally honest. It's not my type of content that I like to consume. If I want to be if I want to be sat in someone's living room having a laugh conversation, I'll invite my mates around and have a beer. If I'm watching content on YouTube, I want to be deriving something from it in terms of like information, insight, behind the scenes stuff. And I think Cammy is very good at... Cammy will be a good envoy. But he'll be a good bridge between the fans and the promotion. So I can see why they'd be keen to promote that. And he deserves it, man. Cammy's a massive fan. But he's also taking what he does more and more seriously as he goes. And he's upped his production, and he's upped his schedule and his diligence and all the rest of that sort of stuff. So fair play to him, man. Like when I interviewed him, for instance... It was clear to see that he had ambitions beyond what he was doing, and it's nice to see that he's realizing it. And if Prem can utilize him in different ways, they've then got him, they've got Trubs, they've got Koj, they've got Gast. I'm sure. I mean, Shotty's obviously got his own channel, but I don't know how much showcasing there'll be going on there. Plus the Prem Patreon. There's a million different outlets that they can use to make their own content, but to be truly cross promotional with other channels, I think they're going to need to look at channels that cover other things as their primary thing. DeBurk is the interesting one, because I know DeBurk has a pretty significant YouTube following, but I know it's not translated into views on his battles, so I wonder how Prem would maybe pitch that to DeBurk in the sense of, look, dude, your channel's got massive potential for crossover for us. The same goes for fucking Heavy Spoilers. Like, it's crazy now to see him performing with Shuffle T and Marlo against Big J and Lefty. Fast forward all these years, and his channel is insanely large. He gets 1 billion views, and his almost never talks about... I don't think he ever talks about battle rap. He's completely off it now, but he's obviously got a history. I mean, fucking hell. Want to throw a Hail Mary of Hail Marys? Someone should reach out to Stephen Bartlett. He used to be a battler. Why not? I find the fucker detestable personally, but if your idea is cross promotion and getting the tournament in the eyes of as many people as possible, fuck it. Throw the Hail Mary and say, get Shotty in a room with someone that can put him in touch with someone that can put him in touch with Stephen Bartlett, and get them showcasing the thing that way, man. Like, fuck it. Again, this tournament is kind of not an all or nothing situation, but it's them betting on themselves. Leave no fucking stone unturned, man. If I was in their position and I was looking to aggressively expand my audience base, man, leave no stone unturned. None whatsoever. Anyway, let me stop telling a promotion how to do its business for a second. Let's come back to the predictions, shall we? So we're into October here, and feel free to leave your predictions along the side as well. We're not keeping to. By the way, anything you say here won't and will never be used against you. If you want to express a wild opinion to say, well, I think Dub T's going to smoke everyone, including fucking, you know, whoever. Cool, whatever, man. There's no hate here. There's no, how can you say that? None of that stuff here, man. Anyways, into October. Crow versus Red Wolf. That's an interesting one, but again, I think Crow's a really strong contender. If we go into, because I think I have. Did I save the groups? Oh, maybe I didn't save the groups. God damn it. These are all the, by the way, these are the releases. So these are when the battles are due to be released, streamed on YouTube. So it's interesting that they're going to be staggering them for a significant portion of time. Again, clever. I like it. I think Crow's a real dark horse when it comes to this tournament, because I think he's perfectly capable of winning his group. And then I think he's perfectly capable of giving every battler a run for their money on the way up. He's going to see Definition do a presentation at my local shopping centre about Marvel tomorrow. Cool. Sweet. Should I? Yeah, fuck it. I did approach... so, quick question. Is Heavy Spoilers... What's his name? Because I only know his name by the channel. Like, I know he has an affiliation with Battle Rap, but Heavy Spoilers, is that who you're referring to? I did approach him for an interview. He said he'd do it, but that was shortly before his channel went through another uptick in followers, and then he started doing a James Bond linked thing. So, partner with the people that make James Bond, appear on my channel. I can see why the James Bond thing probably edged it. I can't offer him an Aston Martin. However, I will do my best to pick up that thread. That's Definition. Okay, interesting, cool. But yeah, tap him up, man. Why not? You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why you wouldn't tap up people that have got significant followings to just have them on like separate shows. You know what I mean? Just a tiny little bit of cross pollination on a regular basis. Okay, here's my pitch. So, there was, when The Walking Dead was really hot, they used to have that post-show where they talked about spoilers, and they had characters that had died on, and they had guests on that weren't part of the show but were fans of the show, getting sort of geeking out about the show, you know what I mean? And talking about what they'd seen and talking about their favorite moments and stuff like that. Do a show like that. Like a post-wrap-up show or a Monday morning show or something like that. Whatever Prem can do to make this tournament and the content within it part of your daily diet of content, stuff like that. The Talking Dead, Hadashroom's got it. Yep, he's right. Something like that. You know what I mean? Just like a post-show, fan-oriented show where the fans can watch and just watch other people geek out and enjoy it. Because that's the other thing as well. If they're smart, they'll be producing content that is largely positive and fan-oriented. You know what I mean? It's enthusiastic. It might be critical, but it's also optimistic. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, you know, shine a turd if the battles were absolute dog shit. Let them say that it were absolute dog shit. But you know what I mean? Like, again, I think about that, the Talking Dead, as an example of a show that you could put together that would allow that cross-pollination with another channel who isn't battle rap oriented, but it doesn't feel cheap. It allows them to fan out for something that they would normally not be able to talk about because of the limitations or restrictions that we have on YouTube about what content we make, because the algorithm doesn't like promoting things that are outside of your wheelhouse. It sort of freaks out for whatever reason. Anyways, let's get back to it. So, DeBurk versus Dub T. I know that that's already happened, I feel like. In fact, I seem to remember Dub T telling me about his preparation for DeBurk. So this is a rematch of sorts. That'll be interesting, because I think Dub T has come a long way since then. I know De Burke has been away for a while, so it'd be interesting to see if he's grown or expanded his repertoire. Goddamn flies. Fuck's sake. Now I've got a fly in the goddamn room. I might have to leave in a second and kill it and come back. Anyways, right. De Burke and Dub T. Again, I'm supporting my boy here. I think Dub T has got a lot to prove. I'm banking on him proving it. So we're going to go with Dub T there. Although I understand De Burke has done very, very well and has got a significant amount of support. But I'm going with Dub T. Gas Buff, again, I don't see him losing to anybody at this stage of the tournament, but it should be a fun battle at least. Slester versus B Ramble or Sam Essay. Again, I'm going to pick B Ramble because I think she has, again, more of a comedic, interesting style. Pagan versus either Sam Essay or B Ramble. I think Pagan again. I think Pagan's got enough there. Dynamic Mike versus Hamill or Kick. I see either one of those guys beating Dynamic Mike. Frost versus Grazza. I see Frost winning that one. Caveman versus Kick Nelly or Hamill. That'll be an interesting one. Because if it's Kick Nelly, then that could be one of the first times that Caveman has had to battle someone that's really, really, really visceral. Whereas Hamill and Caveman, I can see that being quite a jovial battle. Assuming... So, I'm going to put those two like that. So, I'm going to say... I'm still going to pick Caveman. I'll still pick Caveman. But I see Hamill. Hamill I haven't picked yet, but I think Hamill is, again, another one of those dark horses, you know what I mean? That he could go further than people think. He's a funny fucker. Next battle, don't know anything about those two. Can't predict. Then we've got David. Of course, I've already said David is winning the entire tournament. So, David goes through. Sam Heights versus Bert Broadbent. So here's the thing. From what I've seen of Bert, I'm not going to pick him to win because I haven't seen enough out of him yet to suggest to me that he's going to win. I've seen enough out of Sam Heights to suggest he would, so I'm going to give that one to Sam. Quicksilver, that's an interesting one. Because again, it depends on what Kupar wants out of the battle. Because the other thing about this tournament is, are the guys able to show another dimension to themselves? Are they able to exhibit an aspect to themselves? Are they able to level up and evolve and showcase things that we normally haven't seen from them? Even if it's just, again, a more vicious nature, a more precise, pronounced nature, a more deadly insight, a more, sort of intricate rhyming pattern, all these sorts of things. I'll go with Quicksilver on that one too. I've seen Quicksilver deliver some pretty punchy stuff, and his crowd work is very, very good as well. I know he has a tendency to lean on that a little bit, but again, I give Kupar credit for trying to make it fun. Jim Bob, I'm going to pick until I have an opportunity to check out Rude Boy. So thanks for the suggestion. I'll be sure to check him out so I can try and be a bit more McCoy again. Just because, again, Enigma is someone I need to check out. Visual versus Hulk. Classic, current versus previous gen. Yeah, isn't it interesting that I'm going to pick against him again? I'd still pick Visual in this situation, even though, again, even Shotty was quick to point out that Hulk's a bit of a dark horse in this tournament because he could really put together a run if he really wants to. It depends on, again, how much dedication and how much credibility he can get in the bank while the tournament's progressing. Because at the moment, this is why I think Visual's the favourite. He's got so much credibility in the bank in terms of his CV, performing style, the fact that he's been a champion. There's a lot in Visual's bank. Plus, again, he's a very, very skillful motherfucker. Again, lost to Bobby. Let's not forget. He has his limits. It's the thing I would say about Visual. At the moment, he has his limitations. It's not to say he hasn't had moments of being very, very, very good. He was comprehensively beaten by Quill. I don't want anyone to forget that. And he did lose to Bobby. So there's scope to improve. And that's why I say, are these oh, I see. Okay, so some of the stuff about De Burke I might have to change. But I'm only going by the material that I've got here. So I'm going to have to, this will be outdated. But fuck it, who cares? Let's just have some fun with it. But Visual has space to improve. Visual has space to level up. I want to see that. I want to see him put some of these previous losses to bed by answering some of the critiques of those losses. But, that being said, I'd pick him to beat Hulk here. Finally, Kingsley versus Dojo. Again, nothing against Dojo. I just think Kingsley has too much for him in the sense of he's very funny. He's very dynamic. He's got great crowd work. He's also very, as showcased in the O'Shea battle, he's very, very good at finding new angles on existing things from battlers. He's not one to be unoriginal. You know what I mean? And we've got someone I've never seen referenced before, Al Mema or Mima. Hi, Al Mima. Thank you for coming and joining us. I appreciate you just saying hi. Everyone say hi to Al Mima, everybody. I don't know. Again, unless I know you on Twitter, I probably don't know who you are in real life. So, hi, Al Mima, for the third time. Have I missed any comments, by the way? I feel like I might have missed. I think DeBurke has 3 rematches and Debunked has da-da-da-da-da. Cool. In which case, what I might do is we might go bracket by bracket at some point. I wanted to talk generally about the tournament just on this one occasion because I just haven't talked about the actual battles, you know what I mean? So I wanted to fixate on that for a little bit. So anyways, that covers that. Let's go into the final rounds for November. Red Wolf versus DeBurke. I'd pick Red Wolf to win in that one, even though again I know DeBurke has got, you know, he's got something about him, but I'd pick Red Wolf. Dub T versus Crow. Yeah, that's an uphill climb for young Dub T. It's hard to pick against my boy here, but I'd have to pick Crow in that situation. Gas Buff versus either B Ramble or Sam Essay. Yes, it is. This is for the Premier Battles Where Winning Matters tournament we're talking about here, Al Mima. That's due to start in the next couple of months. September, I believe, is the first set of recordings. If tell you what, let's go. That's the release schedule, so that's slightly different. There we are. So the first set of battles are going to be recorded on the 25th of September, then 26th of October, then the 26th of November, 26th of March, 26th of May, and then they go back into the live events again. And I think that's for the semi-finals. Okay, fair enough. This might have been rejigged. I swear Briggsy said something about the quarterfinals are going to be live again. There's also, looks like that's been messed up somehow, some way. Not sure how. Anyways, yes, this is the Premier Battles Where Winning Matters tournament. So, hopefully you're now up to speed. If you missed anything from the beginning of the stream, we covered all this. So if you want to go and catch up and then come back to us here, then fine. So let's go back to here. Right. Well, that battle, for instance, Gasperth versus B Ramble and something, that's a great opportunity for both of those. I don't think either of them can present much of a challenge to Gas because, again, I just think he's too good, too experienced. Because that's the thing. It was Reverse that was making this point against Gast. He's like, oh, you've done 1,000 battles against all the mid tiers, and it just means that you're a hard worker. It doesn't mean you're a good battler. I don't agree with that concept. I think Gast has put in the work. The only thing that Gast has to do now is to have that credibility now and the belief in that credibility. Again, I've said this probably so much that Bobby is sick of me saying it. In my opinion, he beat Bobby Rex. If you can beat Bobby Rex, you can beat anybody. You can beat anybody in battle rap in the UK. There's not a single person you couldn't, if properly applied to yourself, beat. And Gas Buff beat him. I believe in the ability of Gas Buff. I just now need him to see the mileage in maybe just switching up the gimmick, if you will, of his persona, not only behind the scenes, but on stage too, to being less timid, more confident, more assured, but without losing that endearing nature that he has. But I think it's a great opportunity for B Ramble and Sam Essay, but I'd pick Gas Buff all day long. I think he's imperious. Slester versus Bowski. I'll go with Slester on that one. Pagan again. Although saying that, Pagan versus Hamill will be an interesting one, because I think Pagan would struggle against someone as jovial as Hamill. I think Pagan, though, has a pretty big amount of upside. That would be a test for Pagan on that one. Kick Nelly again. I just think Pagan has Pagan isn't so locked into the visceral thing that he can't make light of it and dance around it. You know what I mean? Whereas I think Hamill has some of that too, but less of the vitriolic stuff that Pagan has. Pagan's got a good balance of the two, so I'd pick Pagan anyway. Although if it's Pagan versus Hamill, that's a much tighter battle than I would like to call. I'll give it to Pagan though. Dynamic Fight versus, I would again go with either Sam SA or B Ramble on that one, because I think both of them have a little bit more than what I've seen. Frost versus, I think Frost would have too much for either one of them. Again, Frost will clown, kick Nelly all day long. And Hamill, I don't know if he's yet got the crowd work on point. I know Hamill's very, very funny, and he can be very intricate with his rhymes. I just think he's still missing that endearment from the crowd. That's still to be worked upon. Caveman versus Grazza, I'm going to go with Caveman. I know that's supposed to be Beyond, not Beyond, the evolution of Dugong. Versus David. David picks that one up. Dej and the other one, don't know, so can't pick. Sam Hypes versus Quicksilver. That's an interesting one, but I'll go with Quicksilver on that one. Coupar versus Bert. I'll go with Coupar. Rude Boy versus Enigma. Don't know anything, but I will check both of those out. McCoy versus Jim Bob. I'll go with Jim Bob. Visual versus Kingsley Thunder. Now, that's an interesting one. That, by the way, that group is fucking... That's a hard one, isn't it, for Dojo? It speaks to the fact that they've got a lot of respect for Dojo to put him in there, but it's hard to see him picking up wins against those three. You know what I mean? That's rough for Dojo. Yeah, that's more of an opportunity to showcase what you can do against some solid performers. But in terms of a group format, because I know Dojo would very, very much like to win the tournament. That's a group of death for Dojo, man. That's a fucking Viper's Den. But as far as Visual versus Kingsley, I think Kingsley is going to give Visual a much closer and tighter battle than he would want. Yeah, that's difficult, because I think that's the battle. So, Visual versus Kingsley. This is why the format of the group, the tournament, is interesting, because that battle might determine who goes first and second, and that then changes how hard your opponent is going to be for the next one. Gun to my head. Yeah, it's hard to see Visual not winning that one, but I can just as easily see Kingsley pulling out a performance of a lifetime sort of situation, because the stakes of that one are massive. See, again, narratives, right? Even though, and Hylas has made the reference here that Viz and Kingsley hasn't happened, hell of a battle, two of my favourites. Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan of Kingsley Thunder. Visual, I've thoroughly enjoyed a lot of his battles. Again, seeing him live against Villain was something else, man. He was snapping that day. Fucking brilliant stuff. But that's a battle of such significance. Because if we look at, again, in my prediction, because again, this is based on my predictions, right? In my predictions, these two would go into that battle on 6 points, which means that, again, whoever wins goes first, second one goes second. That then creates a tension for the rest of it, because what if they battle each other down the line in the final or, anywhere else? But yeah, man, again, the group formatting makes it interesting, especially considering that there's points, and that might determine your opponent. So a bad performance can mean that you're then second, even though you're the stronger competitor overall. So it throws up all these weird dynamics. But I'll pick Visual on that one. Dojo versus Hulk is, I think, a rematch of sorts, because I'm pretty sure I reviewed Dojo versus Hulk for Don't Flop. So that'll be interesting, because I think that was towards the beginning of Dojo's stint, i.e., he was still kind of he wasn't polished yet. So it'd be an interesting yardstick to see how much Dojo has developed since then. But I'll go with Dojo on that one. I haven't picked Hulk winning anything yet, but I think that Hulk's interjection in that one is a good test for all three of those guys, in the sense of more traditional battle rap style. Visceral, hard-hitting, bar for bar sort of stuff. No nonsense, a lot of that. Whereas you got Kingsley the comedian, Visual the up-and-comer, and Dojo maybe the sort of the understudy at the moment. But all of them stand to gain from each other. I think that's a good one. So let me go back to not this. This is not what I need. I need this. Because this is now where I want to look at it in context of the groups. So, is this the reworked one then, I presume? It must be, because that's where De Burke is. So De Burke has been moved to here. So some of these matchups that I've made reference to aren't going to happen because of the reshuffle. So, okay, fair enough. I may have just wasted some of your time, in which case I apologize for that. But let's look at the groups. So, again, not looking at the battles themselves, just looking at the groups. You pick 2. Who's going through? I would go with... I think Crow's going to win this one. So, where will you watch the battle? So, tell you what, let's go. It's a good question. Let's go. God damn it, where is it? There it is. Right, so all of the battles are going to be streamed initially live on... sorry, not live on Patreon. On Patreon. They then get a YouTube release the following month, I believe. So, as you can see, all of these are streamed live on the Patreon. And then the YouTube feed happens afterwards. All of these are going to be filmed September, October, November. And then they'll get released in January onwards, I believe. So, let's go. Yeah, here you go. So these are all when the battles are going to be showcased on YouTube. So, January 3rd, weekly from here, basically. And that's on the that's going to be on the Premier Battles YouTube channel. But otherwise, I would recommend getting the YouTube. If you're at all interested in this tournament and to see how it's going to go, get the Premier Battles Patreon. 2 reasons. Number 1, you'll get access to the battles when they drop initially, so that you can get on the hype train of things, get ahead of spoilers, that sort of stuff. The other reason as well is, as mentioned in this graphic, you're only going to be able to get tickets to the live events initially if you're a Patreon member. So if you're all interested in going to any of these recordings, you need to be on the Patreon to be offered the opportunity to buy a ticket. Later on, there'll be ticketed events that you can just buy a ticket to if you just want to turn up to a live event. But for hardcore fans or even more casual fans like me, I'd quite like to go to one of these recordings at the very least. If no other reason than to see the battles live and to have my own idea about what's going to happen. Obviously, they'll probably make you sign a non-disclosure to say, listen, don't talk about it, don't spoil it. That's fine. I've got no problems with that, but it's nice to have the initial context of what's happening so that when the recording drops, you can talk about it fresh. You can talk about it with the benefit of seeing it live as well. So if you're at all interested in seeing them live, that's how you would do it. Good question. So let's go back here. So if I'm picking a winner and a runner-up in these groups, I'm picking Crow, and I'll go with Dub T. I'm picking Gas Buff, and I'm picking B Ramble. I'm picking Pagan, and I'm picking Hamel. Ooh, that's tricky. We'll go with Caveman and Frost on that one. Jim Bob Gnarly and McCoy. David. Come on, David. And then take your pick out of the other 3. I'm going to have to check out those guys so I can get a better frame of reference. Quicksilver and Sam Hype's probably out of that group. And then the group of death. We've got Visual and Kingsley Thunder. So those would be my picks out of the groups. And then obviously going into the quarterfinals, semi-finals. What I might do is I'll make this is we'll call this the group stages predictions. I'll do graphics and brackets for the tournament as it progresses on another stream, because we've already been going for an hour and a half, so I feel like that's plenty of predictions for now. But yeah, there you go. So there you go. Now we've got it on record. Now we can all say Lorne was full of shit when he made his predictions, because I've now given you my predictions and my thought processes. So I just want to come back to this for a second. So again, the whole idea of this is to create a content stream that you know when it's happening, why it's happening, where it's happening, and what is happening. I know that Hadashrooms and Hylas in particular aren't particularly happy about the hiatus of sorts. But how would you feel about the break? How do you feel about it then being on a consistent and constant basis? How do you feel about the fact that they're talking about doing additional content on top of it all? Again, social media platforms full of extra content of this week's battlers, social content of highlights, rewind clips, drops on a regular basis, VODs on a regular basis, the initial live streams, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that answers my question. So yeah, Koj is definitely going to be doing his own streams. Shotty's definitely going to be doing his own streams. Trubs is going to be doing his own streams. Jen with 3 N's is going to be doing streams. I know that, again, I understand that this came together really, really quickly, so I can forgive a few typos. It's fine. But yeah, so what do you think? We've gone through pretty much everything verbatim, word for word, exactly what's going to happen now. So yeah, thoughts, questions, queries. I have a few minutes where I'm going to just sit and enjoy the rest of my water. What do you think? I'm going to let you guys have the comment section for a second. Hadashrooms, you gentlemen, thanks for resharing the tweet, buddy. David's busy anyway. Otherwise, he'd see me banging on about how I think he's going to do well in the tournament. Don't tell him. Do not tell him. No questions, comments, or otherwise? I'm assuming not. No, nothing on there either. Cool. In which case, the only thing I have left to say about the tournament in its current guise is I hope it goes well. I hope nothing happens between now and when the tournament is due to go live to dislodge or derail it or anything along those lines. I still have my curiosities when it comes to the tournament. I still have things that I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. But I think at the moment, on balance, it's going to be interesting to see if it sticks. I hope it does. For Prem's sake and for every performer that's making an effort to go and do a job for Prem, I sincerely hope it all pans out. So, I think we'll leave it there because I don't really have anything more to add about this. Good. So am I, Hadashrooms. I hope everyone else is as well. I hope everyone gives the format a try. I will share with you, I tried getting more information about the tournament. I've tried speaking to people about it. The only person who's been forthcoming so far has been Gas Buff. I don't think I'm going to be able to get much more information about what's happening, when it's happening, thoughts, queries, worries, all the rest of it from Prem staff. So what I would say is I'm sure they'll talk about this in due course. So I would invite you to pay attention to their own streams. So Shotty's channel, Trubs' channel, Koj's channel, Gast's, Prem's, obviously, the Patreon, all the rest of that sort of stuff. I'm sure they're going to be dropping stuff as and when, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But I think we'll leave it there for now. Like I say, I'm going to be talking about other stuff on another stream that's got nothing to do with Battle Rap in due course. I'll let you know when that's going to happen. For now, though, I want to thank you for joining me. I know it's early. In fact, I'm wrapping right around the time that I said I would start, but that's, again, I had some time on my hands. I wanted to get this out of the way so I could kind of look forward to a steady evening ahead. Thank you for joining me. If you did so, please be sure to like the video, share it if you thought it was at all informative or enjoyable, or if you want to see more of them. Subscribe to the channel if you wouldn't mind doing so. I'm up to 701 subscribers, on the way to 1,000. Hoping to break that threshold at some stage in the next 30 to 40 years before I die. Yeah, I just hope you're having a good rest of your Saturday, whatever you're up to. Hope you're keeping well. Hadashrooms, thank you for joining me. Hylas, thank you for joining me. Pagan, thank you for joining me. We had a gentleman I've not seen in the chat before, Aaron Jacob. Maybe I have. Sorry, I might have done. Aaron, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. And then we had, what I'm pretty confident is a new commenter, Al Mima. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate you. So listen, take very good care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next stream when I've got one scheduled. We've got David coming in for an interview on Monday. That will probably drop on the Tuesday, so be sure to keep an eye out for that one. We'll be talking about a bunch of stuff, Battle Rap related and otherwise. But before you do any of that, I sincerely hope you're all taking good care of yourselves. I hope everything is as well as it possibly can be in your world. And all being well, I will see you on the next episode. And you are welcome, Hadderstreams. Cheers for joining in. And a final reminder to everyone, go and check out Hadderstream's live stream on Twitch. When he posts the links and stuff, just give it a click. Go and give it a try. I'd appreciate you. Anyways, take very good care of yourselves. All being well, I'll see you on the next episode of The Halcyon Show.